The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan, joining us in studio, friend of the show. It's been a while, but with football season kicking off tonight for the Panthers in the preseason against Drake Maye and the Patriots, we brought back Mike Glennon, former NC State quarterback, 10-year NFL veteran. He's in studio, ready to help us understand what's going on in the football world. Before we talk a little Wolf Pack, I can tell you right now that the fan base is confused for the Panthers on why Josh Allen's going to be playing this weekend, Patrick Mahomes is going to be playing this weekend, C.J. Stroud's going to be playing this weekend, and Bryce Young is not playing tonight against the Patriots.
I think I'll take a line out of Aaron Rodgers and say relax. A lot of times these decisions aren't all about one player. It could be about the guys around him, and if they're banged up at other positions, if they're resting some of the receivers or offensive linemen, they may not want to put them out there with the twos essentially, because you might be playing against the ones, and all of a sudden that could lead to an injury. And at the end of the day, it's the preseason. We get to week 2, week 3 of the season, and no one's going to remember if Bryce Young played good or bad. Now, I guess they will remember if he plays bad, but if he plays good, no one's going to remember. So I don't look too much into those decisions. I trust the coaches. In reality, what's he going to throw tonight? Maybe 5 passes. Those other guys that you mentioned might throw between 2 and 5 passes tonight. It's not the end of the world.
No one's going to remember if he plays well in the preseason. Everyone is going to remember if he plays well week 1 and beyond. Does getting preseason reps affect that? Because that, obviously, I'm not saying he's got to play so he can go 8 for 10 and look awesome. It's almost like I want him to play so he and Dave Canales, who's a first-time head coach, get to work out the kinks in a game-like situation ahead of week 1, because, if there's a delay game on the first series tonight, I could not care less. If there's a delay game on the first series week 1 against New Orleans, I'm going to be very frustrated by that, and that's what, to me, the preseason is for.
I think you do want your starting quarterback to play some in the preseason just to kind of shake off the cobwebs. It's different from practice. In practice, there's almost an element when everyone's standing behind you, and then everyone, the coaches, the players, there's just a bunch of guys behind you, and then you go out for the first time and play a game. It's almost like this naked feeling, like it feels like no one else is on the field.
That sky cam overhead, peering into the back of your skull.
You haven't been hit in a while, so I do think he should play at some point. To your point, he hasn't worked with Dave Canales. It's a new guy calling the plays in. Just getting a feel for, it's different from practice. In practice, you're reading off of a script. In the game, Dave Canales has got to get that play into him, and how quickly does he get in? And I think all that is important. And I would like to see Bryce play some, but to me, the preseason isn't a true fair test to what the season's going to be. You might not be playing with your guys. You're not really game planning. The flow of the game is just different because it's almost like whose line is it anyway, where the points don't matter. So
what a reference, Jim Carrey over here.
So
let's dive into it further. Of the Panthers offense, who is the Wayne Brady? No, I'm kidding. But on the other side, Drake Maye is getting his first taste of NFL action. He will play. As somebody that it's the NFL dream, right? And obviously he's the 3rd overall pick, so it might be a little different, but what is he going through, and what do you want to see from a rookie who's breaking the seal in their NFL career in the preseason?
Right. As much as I just talked about preseason, not that big of a deal for the starting quarterback. Huge deal for Drake Maye. I can still remember the feeling I had going into my first preseason game. We were playing the Ravens. They had just come off their Super Bowl win, and you're warming up, and you're like, wow, there's Joe Flacco, there's Terrell Suggs, and I get in. Very first play, we were backed up on the 1-yard line, and we called the famous John Gruden play, Spider 2 Y banana, and your first read is the guy in the flat, the fullback in the flat, and I look, and he's double covered, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to take a safety on my first play. Tight end, completely dropped coverage. Play went for 70 yards. But I say that with you go into it like I'm confident. I've played in college football and played at a high level, but you really don't know, do I belong? And you start playing in those preseason games, and you're like, okay, this is still football at the end of the day. It's a little faster. You got to get the ball out a little quicker. Guys, are making plays around me, but I want to feel like I belong. So for Drake Maye, this will be a big weekend for him.
Mike Glennon joining us here in studio on The Drive. The other part that I think Carolina fans, and I know I said we'll talk Pack, now we're talking a bunch about a Carolina guy. Carolina fans are worried about for Drake Maye is the Patriots are kind of Panthers-like in that there's a very obvious reason why they were drafting high. The roster not exceptional. They were in on the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. Looks like they've fallen out of that. What are the struggles for the team developing Drake Maye? And again, not to point fingers here, but you've been on some teams that didn't win a ton of games in the NFL. How difficult is it to develop as a quarterback in that incubator?
Yeah, it can be tough, and I think usually I am in favor of if you draft a guy at 3 overall, you play him week 1. I feel like they went into this season planning on taking a quarterback at 3, but they also planned on bringing in Jacoby Brissett to be the starter. We'll make this about the
There we go. Let's get it back to the state guys.
And Jacoby is the perfect bridge quarterback for Drake Maye. He's more than capable of helping the Patriots win games, and he's also a great guy to learn from and be around. He's not going to, turn his shoulder to Drake. He's going to be helpful. So with the state of this Patriots team, I think and with Drake being young, he's only 3 years removed from high school, only 2 years as a starter. I think he will benefit from kind of sitting back in more of the Jordan Love model. I also don't love referencing that because I think
My thing is, like, every time someone says Aaron Rodgers sat so he's awesome and Jordan Love sat so he's awesome and Tom Brady sat a year so he's awesome, Patrick Mahomes sat a year so he's awesome, I think you're insulting the player by acting like
exactly.
If Patrick Mahomes played his rookie year, he somehow wouldn't be what he is now.
Exactly.
Or if Aaron Rodgers played right away, he wouldn't be what he is now. Those guys they're kind of inevitable.
Exactly.
Those guys were going to be good regardless. We'll see if Jordan Love is that. But at least Rodgers, Mahomes, and Brady, they were going to be good no matter what happened.
I 100% agree. And I think Drake, just where he's at, he doesn't come off to me as he's a smart guy. But what I saw on film last year from him, he needs some time to grow into the NFL offense. And confidence is a real thing. I mean, the other night on Hard Knocks, Nick Saban talked about the expectations. And being a top pick like that, there's a lot of pressure and expectations. And if it doesn't get off to a good start, that can mess with you. I think the Patrick Mahomes of the world, whether he started his 4th year or his first game of his first season, he was going to be great. Drake, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
And if he is, I will gladly show up here and say, look at that, I was wrong. But I'm pretty comfortable saying nobody in this most recent draft is Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan. Let's go. You transitioned it a little bit there to state, but let's go full over to state. Keep it on quarterbacks. Grayson, McCall, which, by the way, everybody, Mike Glennon is also the co-host of the Pack Therapy podcast, along with yours truly, and a new episode is out. So go ahead and check that out wherever you find podcasts, and it's on our YouTube for a full deep dive into NC State football this year. But we'll give you a little bit of a taste. Grayson McCall comes from Coastal Carolina. What do you expect him to bring to the offense?
I think he's going to be a guy that facilitates the ball. He's going to be the point guard of this team, and he's got the guys around him that's all he needs to be. And he's accurate, he's smart, he's decisive. He's going to go with the ball to the right place and be on time. And he's just going to fit this offense really well in what they need with the supporting cast around him. So I have high expectations. He's played a lot of football. He's played high level with a lot of experience. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm real excited to see the guys around him.
Have you spent much time with Grayson? Because I like ACC kickoff. I've spent some time with him, and like very media, right? And you never know if you're getting the buttoned up. Like I'm mom says, hey, company's coming over. Be on your best behavior version when you're a part of the media. Grayson seems like he and Dave Doran are like uncle and nephew of like the same family. He talks about the chip on the shoulder a whole bunch. Both kind of no nonsense guys. It's one of those deals where, this year they knew they needed a transfer quarterback. MJ Morris was moving on. Brennan Armstrong exhausted his eligibility, had some, Lex Thomas as a young guy. But, I didn't know who the right quarterback was going to be, and they were, rumored to be linked to a few of them. But once he's gotten here, it feels like, how was this not the most obvious thing? He just seems like an NC State guy. Do you get that vibe?
He definitely fits the mold of what Dave Doran and this kind of program stand for right now. And I just being around him, I've seen more the professional side, not the buttoned up politically answer the media questions, right? It's more when I talk to him, it feels like a guy that just came in, a young guy in the NFL. He's been there, done that. It's not too big for him. He's confident. He's cool. It's just kind of steady Eddie with a level head, and it just doesn't feel too big for him. Coastal obviously is a good football program, but coming up to the ACC and NC State's another level, and it doesn't seem like it's going to phase him at all. And I think he's the perfect fit for what they're looking for.
That's Mike Glennon, longtime NFL quarterback. Before that, NC State's quarterback, and he just joined us to break down a little football for you here on The Drive. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Tim.